Welcome back to Families in Action on your hometown station, AM 1220 KHTS. I'm Cary Quashen, along with my co-host Michael Duarte, and we got Stephanie Weiss on from Texas. And this is a pretty serious show. And hey, listen, if you're listening and you want to get involved, you can call us at 661-298-5487, 661-298-5487. Michael, you got some crazy statistics and things that I've been screaming forever, huh?
You have, and you actually mentioned something a couple of weeks ago that dovetails into this, and I'll bring it into perspective after I mention these. But now these statistics go back to 2010, but in 2010, 85% of the U.S. prison population committed crimes while under the influence.
Say that again. I want people to hear this.
85% of the U.S. prison population committed crimes while under the influence. Almost 80% of youths in the juvenile justice system are there because of problems related to substance abuse. 80%, Cary.
Kids. These are kids.
Kids.
I want to say it again. These are children that are in custody in juvenile detention camps because of alcohol or drugs.
Wow. Alcohol and other drugs are involved in 1/2 to 3/4 of all incidents of violence, including child abuse, spousal abuse, homicide, and rape. And here's one that you need to listen to. And close to 100% of date rapes.
100%.
Close to 100% of date rapes as a result of alcohol and drugs. And Cary, you were talking about this a couple of weeks ago on this show.
I've been talking about this for 30 years.
You said if they took drugs and alcohol away, this stuff would almost disappear.
Almost disappear.
Almost disappear.
I'll tell you one thing for sure. 85%, listen to this, 85% of prisoners, people that locked up, are there something to do with alcohol or drugs? 80% of kids. Now, I still think some of those people would be in jail because they just don't make good decisions. Right. But even if you cut out a third of them, how many people would be out of prison?
Well, and look at that. You're talking about something here that's very important as well, because we have we have prison overcrowding. We're opening the doors and letting people out of the streets because we have prison overcrowding. Guess why we have overcrowding in our prisons? Is it tough to figure it out listening to these statistics?
No, people want to know how we got here. It's really easy.
Not hard.
Not hard to figure it out, that's for sure, at all. And people want to know, how did we get to this state? It's really simple. And you guys can help me with this. I mean, why is it that we're having more people using drugs today than ever before? Why? The answer is simple. It really is. Stephanie, what do you think? What do you think the reason is?
Part of it is more available.
Absolutely more available today. It's not only more available today, it's more stronger than it's ever been.
And it's more acceptable. I hate saying that, but it really is, isn't it?
Well, yeah, because, I mean, look what we've done. Okay, alcohol takes how many lives every year? I don't even have the numbers on me. So many, I don't even want to think about it. And then you got now, and it's legal. Now you're throwing marijuana in the mix. Now, maybe there's a good argument, marijuana don't kill you. Well, maybe it does later on in life when it comes to the cancers and everything else that it probably has that's going to cause. But what it does do is it opens the door.
Yeah.
It opens the door for things we said we would never do when we were children. I'll never use drugs. It's only pot. But what does pot do when you smoke it? It gets you high. Makes you feel different than you've ever felt before.
And somebody has just put something in their body that's made them feel better than they ever did before, and that's what kids glob onto.
And socially, it's so acceptable because it's pretty legal, and parents don't want to fight the fight. All the other drugs, I call drugs of opportunity, meaning I'll never smoke a cigarette. Well, there's only 2 reasons a kid would smoke a cigarette, right? There's not 3. There's 2. 1, peer pressure. 2, it's a learned behavior from home. Are there a third reason? Doesn't get you high, doesn't make you feel good. People say it releases anxiety only because you're addicted to the nicotine, if you think about it.
Hey, you know what, Cary and Stephanie, I have an announcement for you.
Okay.
We're halfway through the show. That means 7 people in America have died because of alcohol and other drugs.
Pretty scary.
7 people while we've been on the air for half an hour.
Breaks my heart.
Yeah.
It's sickening, isn't it?
And that's just dying, Michael. That doesn't mean how many people are going to jail right now from it.
Well, every single day.
How many people are getting beaten? How many people are getting raped? Right now.
Right now. Absolutely. And again, over 122 million Americans affected every single day by addiction.
And how many people are causing accidents from their alcoholism and wiping out families who've been driving down the road and never intended that to happen. They didn't get in their car that day and figured they'd be struck by somebody driving under the influence and kill them or their children.
I remember this kid. She was 18 years old. We got her sober, and she had 3 years sober. And the mother had called us last year to thank us for that and let us know that a drunk driver had killed her.
Oh, my goodness.
But I have stories like that. I mean,
sure.
So many.
And, of course, the states that are legalizing marijuana are seeing people driving impaired a lot more.
Of course. And we got to remember, folks, that the marijuana that our kids are smoking today is not the marijuana of the 70s and 80s. It's a different drug. And especially the edibles and the oils. I mean, that's 80% THC. That's a whole different ball game now. We got people that are hallucinating. I mean, they're out of it. We got people coming into the ER, into the psych units, that are psychotic.
Yeah.
Right? And we work at a hospital.
We certainly are, yeah. I mean, we're seeing a lot of different things coming through the door now. Cary, I've got something else, and for Stephanie as well, that this helps put it in perspective. And it's almost so big in numbers that it's unbelievable. But listen to this. The rising cost of addiction exceeds $400 billion with a B yearly. In 2005, $43.6 billion in healthcare, $73.8 billion in the criminal justice system, and listen to this, for business owners, $299 billion lost in productivity. $400 billion yearly just in the United States.
And now we're starting to pay attention. Why?
Hello. Who's going to pay? That's the question. Who's going to pay that bill? Who's going to pay the $400 billion?
We all pay it.
Hello.
That's it. It comes out of our pockets, don't it?
We better cut down on the Starbucks stuff.
Yeah, we better. Yeah, I guess we better, huh? It's getting expensive to live here today.
Wow.
And I'll tell you what, if we don't do something, it's going to get a lot more expensive. And you know what? When it comes to alcohol and drugs, I am a firm believer. Yeah, society, we have a part in this, but it starts at home, doesn't it?
It does.
We need to be role models and examples to our children. We need to walk like we talk. If we don't want our kids to drink and use drugs, we shouldn't drink and use drugs. We need to be the hero, role model, and example that we want for our kids. Yes? Yes? Anybody disagree with that?
I don't know.
No, not at all. And we have to over and over and over again. And it really is about our kids. So somebody may say, oh, not our teenagers. It's a one-time try and they walk away. Or that's not what happens. That's not what happens at all, and yet we refuse, many families refuse to carry on the conversation about drugs and kids. Or we think we have it one time, and we think we have it licked. I had a kid walked in as an 8th grade kid and said, I can't hang with so-and-so anymore because he smokes cigarettes. And I went, thank you, God. I had a kid who walked in 10th grade and said, I can't hang with so-and-so because he's smoking pot. And I went, thank you, God, these messages are getting through. I didn't account for the fact that at a senior year we'd maybe fall in love with a girl and think that it was okay because she thought it was okay. It wasn't her fault. It was my kid's fault who didn't say no, and he was lit from there, and it's been going on off and on now for 15 years. And so, it has to be a daily conversation. It has to start when they're young. It has to start again when they're in elementary school several times. It has to start in junior high, and you have to keep having the conversation. And I know many kids here in Texas, Cary. I know a lot of moms who are dealing with their kids with alcohol and drug issues in college, and they never had those issues in junior high or high school. But
you know what, Stephanie? It's not just a conversation. We need to be present in our kids' worlds. Meaning, if our kids come home at 10 o'clock at night, greet them. Give them a hug. Make sure that they're okay. Wake up in the morning, walk them out, take them to school. Those are the kinds of things we need to do. Have dinner with your kids. At least, I know everybody, it'd be great if we can all sit down as a family and eat 7 nights a week. It's not possible. Not in today's world. But at least a couple of times, connect with your family. Connect. Let people know that are in your world. If they're important, let them know they're important. Especially your children. Well, anybody. And maybe we can beat up some of these numbers.
Speaking of numbers, we've been talking about this the last couple of weeks, but prescription painkillers, which have really, really become quite a thing. Listen to this. Of course, we've already mentioned this before, not today, but in previous shows. Every single day in America, 44 people die from prescription painkiller overdoses. Now, listen to this. Prescription drug overdoses have quadrupled in the past decade. Emergency room visits have doubled from prescription drug abuse, and nearly 2 million people abuse painkillers every year.
Yes.
It just keeps going and going. It's like a snowball that won't stop rolling down the hill.
No, and when we look at overdoses, here's what we're finding in a lot of these overdoses: opioids, of course, and also benzos. So many people are taking pain medications and anti-anxiety pills. They're mixing stuff.
And they just interviewed you for an article here on KHTS and the website, Cary, about all of that.
Did they?
Yeah.
Okay. I don't remember the interviews, but I believe you. I guess that
you're
comes
in a
with
fog
age.
Because you're running from one interview to the next.
Well, it's not even the interviews. It's really, I get very passionate when it comes to this because I'm seeing so many people lose their lives, and I deal with this on a daily basis. And then I hear people say, in Santa Clarita, no, let me get it straight. There's no more drug abuse or drugs here in Santa Clarita than anywhere else. Watch TV. You'll see. The only thing different is we speak a lot about it here. We're trying to do something about it here, from action to KHTS to the school districts to the city.
KHTS does a lot.
That's
I mean, we have to thank them.
Yeah, so we talk a lot more about it, and I'll tell you, the more we talk, the more lives we'll save. Problem is, you don't know that. Because when you're saving a life, nobody knows.
That's right.
When you lose somebody, everybody knows.
And here we are talking with Stephanie about addiction advocacy and education. That'd be a good thing, right?
You know why?
And Stephanie's going to bring everybody's attention to it by diving out of the window of a 20-story hotel.
And we have to do things like that because we're never going to stop drugs from being here. They're going to be here. They've been here since the beginning of time. They'll be here till the end. What we can do, though, is educate.
Right.
And give people knowledge, and with knowledge comes power, and we can make a dent in some of these numbers doing that.
Well, Cary, our city has come a long, long way because there was a time our city said not in our backyard, and yet progressively numbers of us have given the message that has said not in our backyard. We need to work on this specifically. You were at the head of that. Our Blue Ribbon Task Force has been carrying out that for the last 10, 15 years from that perspective. We've been at a place where our city has stood side by side, our school district, come alongside the media, KHTS, and those folks who've helped echo that message. And you guys have helped to change the world. It was not a one-voice whisper. It was a chorus of voices that helped change the landscape of Santa Clarita. Is it perfect? No. Will it ever be perfect? No. Has it changed dramatically with the things that have been done in Santa Clarita to give the message? Absolutely, and that's what we needed to do to pull together from that perspective.
And a lot more work needs to be done because I tell you what, just because everybody's starting to scream now, that doesn't mean it's over.
No.
And we just seen it's just beginning. We now have to make some major changes, period, in the whole system for this to work now. People need to talk about it. There needs to be more treatment. There needs to be more access to treatment. There needs to be more government grants. There needs to be so much stuff to treat all these people that are addicted.
Right. And, we've talked about these statistics, and especially when we talked about the fact that it costs over $400 billion a year. But you know what? Forget the money. Can you imagine all of the people's lives that are just devastated by this.
Well, if you can imagine, we have rehabs and we have call centers. I can't tell you how many people call us every day that want treatment but can't get it. They don't have the money. They don't have the insurance. The county beds are full. There's 4-month waiting list, meaning you have to call every day at 8 a.m. You're talking to an addict that's shooting dope. How are they going to do that for 4 months?
They're not going to do that.
They'll forget in day 2. So we have to,
I was going to say they'd forget halfway through day 1, and I don't mean that facetiously.
You're right. So there needs to be a lot more changes before we can stop these numbers. And yeah, it's expensive to treat people. It's a lot more money not to treat people at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Listening to your numbers. So you know what I mean. The numbers you're speaking. How much money does it cost us?
$400 billion a year.
And that's just in...
That was in 2005 numbers. I suspect we're way above that.
Let me show you something else now. How much money does it cost to house a prisoner? $40,000 or $50,000 or something like that a year. Now, 85% of them are what?
Drug addicts, alcohol.
So how much does it really cost us to treat somebody, to treat alcohol and drug? We have to look at the whole picture, not just the medical.
You hit the nail on the head.
Pretty wild.
And then some states are going to turn around and legalize stuff.
You know what? They're trying to keep people out of prisons, but I don't know that that's going to stop anybody from losing their lives.
Correct. What's that going to do for the people that commit homicides, spousal abuse, child abuse, violence, and date rape?
I'll tell you what it's doing right now is people that we were able to put in treatment last year, we can't today. Because when they got arrested, there was a hammer over their head saying either go to treatment or you're going to face jail time. Now, it's a misdemeanor. They're not going to go to jail, and they know it, so they do not have to go to treatment.
You know what it's like, Cary? It's like you talk about how you have to tell your no has to be no and your yes has to be yes with your children.
Well, there's got to be consequences for actions.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, there is no consequences now for actions.
So there's no teeth in it. So
you can get arrested for sitting in a car shooting heroin. It's a misdemeanor. For having crystal meth, misdemeanor. So all that means is you're going to go to court. And somebody's going to smile and say, "Don't do it again."
And you're going to say, "Of course not."
Yeah. And now a year ago, somebody got caught with that. They went to court and they said, "You're going to go to jail unless you go to treatment." Okay, please let me go to treatment. So it's a double-edged sword. You can't win either way.
Yeah.
It's a mess. But then you got people like Stephanie that's jumping out of a window.
To make a point.
To make a point to say enough's enough.
Yeah. That's a pretty good...
Well, and the point is that, you draw attention to prevention programs for schools and families and healthcare providers. The point is that we can talk treatment and recovery. It can be provided, but we as general, everyday people can carry on that conversation. It doesn't have to be a secret. The point is that we can talk resources and information for families. The more families understand addiction, the more they will continue to love their loved ones who are going through the throes of addiction, the better off not only those families are, but that individual who is the addict is better off. Okay? We've got to convince our federal government that we have to reallocate budgets for treatment, to prevent treatment for people to recover rather than be incarcerated. And then we have to, more than anything else, Cary, which is why this conversation is so important today and every day you and Mike choose to have it, is that once and for all we have to eliminate the unjust shame and stigma associated with the disease of addiction.
Yeah. It's not a moral thing, is it?
No, it's not. It's not a disease of moral turpitude in shape, form.
Hey, Steph, do me a favor. Take us on break.
This is KHTS AM 1220 and Families in Action. It's time for a break.
Welcome back to Families in Action on your hometown station, AM 1220 KHTS. I'm Cary Quashen, along with my co-host Michael Duarte and my ex-co-host Stephanie Weiss, which is calling us from Texas.
Yeehaw.
And tomorrow's a big day for Stephanie.
It sure is.
Stephanie, tomorrow's a big day.
She's doing
Tomorrow
it first.
9:30 in the morning, I'm going to be a group of, throughout the day, there are going to be 50 to 60 of us rappelling off a two-story building.
Two-story? Two-story?
20-story.
Yeah, you said 2-story.
No, 200 feet, 20 stories. It's a very tall building. I was on the top of it yesterday to look at it to go, okay, you can do this, wife.
I'd wear padded socks.
You know, the
do that,
bottom line
Stephanie?
is that we are there to.
I'd wear diapers.
Padded socks.
So no, I've been greatly supported by so many people in this adventure. So I've had several men I know who've repelled, who keep calling me and going, okay, you're going to do it this way, and it's just taken any fear that I have away, because it's for a bigger cause and a bigger picture. Just like when Angel, one of your counselors, did this, Cary, we've all been touched one way or the other, and we want to give a message, and we want to use it as an example to have the conversation, talk about recovery, talk about what's needed, talk about the change, whether it be local, regional, or national, because the conversation has to continue, because the bottom line is one voice is a whisper and many voices are that entire conversation that will be heard.
When do we start talking to our kids, Stephanie? I'm tired of saying
Now.
it. I want to hear it from someone else. When?
The minute they're put in our arms.
No. I talked to ours before. Seriously,
Okay.
I believe you.
I'm not making a joke here. I mean, people
You're
sing
not.
sing to their children when they're still in the mom's womb, and you talk to them about things, and boy, that's not too soon.
So many parents are so afraid to have these conversations. They feel that if I talk about it, I'll jinx it.
It's
No.
the same thing as suicide. If I say something about it, they'll commit suicide, but that's not a fact.
No, that's not a fact. In fact, that's very far from true.
Right.
The more you talk about it, and the younger you deal with it, the better your chances your kids have. And by the way, all statistics say that the younger you deal with someone that starts using alcohol or drugs, the better shot they have of recovering and not becoming an alcoholic or addict.
And I'm gonna remind everybody of something here. We're coming up on the close of the show. And when we come up on the close of the show, stop and think of this fact.
Yeah.
Here in America, 15 people have died as a result of alcohol or drugs.
And that's not counting what? The people that are getting raped,
Oh, yeah.
beaten.
Domestic violence, child abuse, all
Incarcerated.
Yes. Not counting that. And
Assaulted, murdered.
when you wake up every single morning here in America, there are over 122 million people affected by what we're talking about right now. So this isn't a joke. This is serious stuff. This is life and death stuff. And we can do something about it.
Life and death for it. 15 people died since our show.
Yeah.
That's a lot of people.
That's not a good thing.
No, that's a really bad thing. And how many of us know somebody that's affected with alcohol or drugs, if it's in our family or someone else's?
We all do, Cary.
Yeah.
Most of us do.
Like I said, I don't think I ever met anyone that doesn't know somebody. If it wasn't someone in their family, it was someone that they know.
Right.
So it's time to not only start the conversation, but continue the conversation at many, many different levels to make the change in the world that we all want to see.
Yeah.
What can they do, Stephanie?
Starts at home.
Well, first of all, if you have somebody in your family now, or a friend, or somebody that you know of who's in the throes of addiction but doesn't have help, start helping the reach out process. You don't have to go it alone. There is help. And like you always say, Cary, if you're employed somewhere, look on the back of your insurance card. That's number one. Most communities now are giving a message across the United States that things have to change. So cities are good resources. Community services are good resources to have the conversation. They can pick up the phone and call your staff, and they can refer them to somebody in a different area, for example.
And you can always call Action at 800-367-8336. That's 1-800-367-8336. And for mental health, there's also 211. Up here we have Henry Mayo Hospitals open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Walk into the ER if you're in crisis, emotionally or physically.
You'll be seen right away.
You'll be seen right away. And hey, Stephanie, I love you. I tell you, I miss seeing you, and it sure is good to have you back on the air with us.
Thank you so much for the opportunity. Just hold a good thought tomorrow that I accomplished the goal that I'm out to accomplish.
You know what? You're going to be so giddy when that's over with, you're just going to be beside yourself.
Yeah, I want to hear from you right when you're done, okay?
I will call you. Anyway, guys, I'll be talking to you, and the whole point is that we can change the world.
Thanks for all you do, Stephanie Weiss. And Michael, what's going on next week?
Next week, we're going to have Pam Geyer here from Henry Mayo Newhall Hospital, and she's going to be talking with us about pain management, which is, we can also talk about this abuse of prescription drugs.
That's right.
But we're going to find out how to really manage your pain.
Very cool. Hey, this is Families in Action on your hometown station, AM 1220, KHTS. Thanks for listening.